I was talking to someone in the park yesterday, and there was a few topics that we talked about that I want to think a bit more about. First, I will mention the book that he recommended me, which is called Blink. I've listened to about half of it. It's mostly talking about how quickly we make first impressions and how much it can affect our judgment, as well as some pros and cons. One of the most fascinating stories, studies, evidence he made an example out of was one where they showed a group of students in muted video of a professor for 10 seconds and told them to rate how well they thought the professor taught. And then they surveyed the students of that professor who took an entire semester with him, and then Matt compared those ratings, and it was about the same. And then they reduced it to 8 seconds, 6 seconds, 4 seconds, and 2 seconds. The group of students who watched a professor teach for 2 seconds without audio came to roughly the same rating. It would be a spread, but like the spread, the ratings were about the same as students who ratings for those who took an entire semester with him. That doesn't It's not necessarily objective, but the fact that the spread looks similar was very, or actually maybe it wasn't the spread, but basically it varies by professor, and the first impression on average was about the same as the long-term impression, which I think is fascinating considering 2 seconds and no audio is a very short time. Because the tone is, I think, a big giveaway in terms of how monotone they are when teaching. So if you were to ask me how would I judge whether or not I think a professor teaches well, I think the tone is important. If some professors are very monotone, but I guess if I were told that I would make roughly the same judgment in 2 seconds without audio, I would actually be very curious if that was true. If you were to show me a 2-second muted clip of my professors before I took the class, and then I wrote down my answers and then compared to and then took a look at my previous answers at the end of the semesters, I would be fascinated by that experience to see what I would think. So that was an example in Blink. They also talked about how salespeople, they took a group of students who were graduated, they were dressed up like they were there to do business, and they would go into a car dealership. And their job was to point at the cheapest car, say they wanted to buy this car, and haggle for about 40 minutes until they got to the lowest price they could. And then they would take a look at all of these deals, which is what they were offered, and then how low they got it down to. And they wanted to judge for biases from skin color, gender, and it's stuff like that. And obviously it wasn't the salespeople being deliberately racist. It's usually subconscious judgments. And the way they describe that this isn't racist is that this is a categorization. It's even the author, who is black, had found it more difficult to associate black people with positive words and white people with negative words, not because he was racist against blacks, but simply because of long-term conditioning. It's if you think about it, it's not that you think black people are worse, but you do think that black people are there's statistically less black, say professors or representatives at higher levels of visibility. And the fascinating thing is, I guess it's a bit like the race privilege, because I think what he said was, actually I'll talk a bit more about the studies and the results of the studies first, because there's a fact here that I found really interesting that is a lot more interesting than this racist. It's not about racism. It's about your subconscious reactions when you see like, so basically the way they said it was, for the white male, I think height, they also took into account height, but I don't remember the details for height, so I'll just say white male. They started with 700 and something dollars above the invoice amount that they bought the dealership, but they bought it from the dealership for. And for the white female, it was $1,300 above, and then for the black female, I can't remember what the black male was. For the black female, it was like 1,700, and then after the 40 minutes of haggling, the black female got it down to about 1,300 or 1,200. So the white male was off the front price that the white male was offered was cheaper than the one the black woman could get it down to after haggling. And the way he explains the way it works is that they have, it's like labeling them as, it's not that they're discriminating against them in terms of the price, but the way the subconscious discrimination works is how much of a sucker they basically classify the other person as, and like how gullible and more likely they are to sell the car at a higher price to them. So they just subconsciously believe that these people are more likely to buy at a higher price, basically. Anyway, so the study was very interesting because the way it works is there's like race, height, and gender, and I think it was like the like 10,000 largest companies in America or something, or 500, I can't remember. Like there was like almost no, the majority, their average height was like 5'11" or something. Like the majority of them were male, the majority of them were white, and there was like only one female 5'6" black woman or something like that. I can't remember the details, but like, so when you take this statistic and then think about how it would influence your perception, it, like just in terms of volume, right? So if all the entrepreneurs you see are, or like the majority of them are taller, the majority of them are white, the majority of them are male, it just in terms of perception is going to influence your representation. And I'm not saying we need to promote, them and get this like quotas or whatever. Like quotas are stupid, but I'm not actually sure like at how it works. But basically, I think he was suggesting that this is part of what would influence our subconscious opinions. Another thing is he mentioned like the worst president in like 1920 or something, who was tall and handsome, and he had no idea what he was doing, but people had a inclination to believe that he was competent just because of the way he looked. Or I can't remember, but I think this is basically the halo effect. Anyways, okay, I can't remember the details, so I'm not actually going to go on, but. And I'm not trying to make this a case for systemic racism, systemic sexism, systemic like patriarchy, all of that. No, of course not. It's just study of how our brains work, right? And our subconscious prejudices, I guess. Prejudgment. Yeah, I mean, it technically is a prejudice, even if it's, yeah. I don't know. I feel like this has gone off in the wrong direction. This is not what I meant to say at all. But I don't actually know how to frame it more accurately. I should probably listen to it again or something and write notes. Anyways, so I'm just going to move on to the next topic. Yes, the divisiveness of social media is actually crazy because, okay, there's like a few different aspects of it. First of all, it's the algorithm. The algorithm promotes whatever you look at longer, whatever you click longer, watch longer, whatever you click more often, etc. And the problem is that we are, again, very biological creatures. So we are inclined to click on things that trigger our emotions and not our logic, because that's So that's why clickbait works. So the thing is, we're teaching the algorithm to give us more of the things that trigger our fear, our anger, our desire for validation. It pushes us away from people who promote opinions that are the opposite of ours, unless they're getting shut down. Like, because that's how we are biologically programmed to do, or I should say, evolved. So you have to very carefully control what your algorithm tells you. And for me personally, I had to remove the shorts section off of YouTube. Like, if you go to your front page there and you scroll down a bit, there's like a shorts bar. And you can get rid of it. There's an X at the top right corner. You have to get rid of that. It's the clickbait effect of shorts is so insane, because the thing about shorts is that when you see it and it's if it's a 10-minute video and it's clickbait, you go, yeah, it's just clickbait. But if it's a 30-second video, you go, I mean, it's a 30-second video. And then the resistance against the clickbait is much weaker. And that was the issue I had with shorts. So I kept watching these, like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I kept clicking on these shitty, like, Fresh and Fit clips and these, like, red pill clips. And I don't even like most of them, okay? It's just so clickbaity. And I'll tell you specifically what they did to penetrate the algorithm so hard that even when I watch other shorts, they still dominated my short section. They have affiliate marketing, and it's like, if you look at one of the clips, most of the clips are not uploaded by the channels themselves. And if you go into the comments, there's like a link for you to, like, pay $20 or something, and then they'll give you a bunch of pre-made videos to upload on our channel, and then they'll pay for it based on views or something. I have no idea, but it's basically the Andrew Tate algorithm, I think, model. Mr. Beast called it the Andrew Tate model, because that's what Andrew Tate did to go viral, and like Fresh and Fit is doing it. I don't know who. I didn't actually look at the website, but there's like other channels, and most of them are like the same type of shit. Like, okay, first of all, if you watch Fresh and Fit, you need to stop, because it's combative. You don't want combative content. Don't watch combative content. If there is, like, you should listen. You can listen to, like, different perspectives a little bit, even if you agree. If you agree, you listen to a little bit, and once you hear it repeating, like you've heard it multiple times, it's time to stop. You got to switch the topic, find something new. And the thing I don't like least about Fresh and Fit, okay, is not the content itself, which, I mean, it's all the same thing. They get, like, these dumb ass idiots on the show, and then they make them look stupid. And okay. Here's the thing. They take these women who are like hoes, and then they tell these hoes, if you want to have a good relationship, you're screwed because you're a hoe. You're not going to find a good man as a hoe. And then, they get triggered, whatever. And then they use facts and figures, whatever. But here's the thing. If you want to use facts and figures about what it takes to find a good man, I'll tell you a fact and figure. You're not going to find a good woman by your standards by going to the club and finding hoes on Instagram. Like, if you say this is what makes a good woman, and this is what you be as a woman, why are you going to the club and Instagram to find the women who don't do this, to teach them what they should be? I mean, they're already hoes. They're just doing it for the content. Anyways, I mean, I obviously watched a bunch of other shorts. Like, it wasn't just that, but those were the ones that bothered me the most because they were the most combative. I watched, like, memes. I watched comedy. I watched skits, all of those, but they weren't meant to trigger my anger against, or they weren't there for shock value. It was mostly just for laughs. Anyways, but the main issue is that I would like click a short, whether it's, you know, one of these stupid anger-inducing ones, or if it was just comedy, whatever. I ended up scrolling for like another 10 videos, and I waste like 10 minutes of my time. So yeah. Basically, yeah, I mean, just removing the short channel was huge. Okay, next. Let's continue about AI. So the thing about AI is that ChatGPT is just a representation of the model. So like all of this hype about GPT, it's not ChatGPT itself that's powerful. It's when you take the AI self-learning model that is very good at learning through the input of mass amounts of data, and then apply it to a particular skill. And it may not be ChatGPT. It might be a different AI, kind of like Midjourney. The point is, when you take an AI, train it on a ton of data for one thing, it's going to be so good at that thing. And when you have the tools, when you have these AI tools that are going to come out and be trained to do a specific job, in the next few years, it's going to completely change how technology is used. Like if you think about like a medical assistant, where a doctor, and the AI is just trained on medical data, all of the most up-to-date research, it's constantly being updated. The different doctors have access to it, and then when they're making diagnosis, they can reference the AI for maybe edge cases or up-to-date research, or maybe a particular diagnosis that is a little bit different because of this attribute. And obviously it would have, you still need the doctors to look at you as an individual, some cues that the AI won't really see, some information that the patient won't really know is important. And also in the short term, obviously the AI is more prone to make mistakes. But like in the future, when the AI is better at fact checking itself, I think it will make medical development much faster as well. Not just development, okay, maybe not development, but in terms of the rate of adaptation of new research by hospitals and and healthcare. Because you don't have to read the latest papers to know the latest information. And yeah, in lawyers, imagine you have an AI that's trained just on the laws of your country, knows the laws of your state, and maybe city. I guess cities have local laws too, but like the AI knows all of these laws for your, and you tell it your address, whatever the case, and they can reference. Okay, maybe not lawyers. Not lawyers. That's not what lawyers do, but or maybe it is. But like other people who are involved and have to consider the laws around their occupation. I don't like. I mean, every job is gonna be involved with laws, but not everybody knows all the laws around it. So it makes the maybe law-related work or tax knowledge or whatever much more accessible to smaller companies and stuff without their own lawyers. Or I guess I don't know. But when you think of these skills that are going to be modeled, like imagine you just have the curriculum trained on globally rather than in the school, and you go, what was the most effective class for, okay, I guess this is not really that soon. I don't think this will happen anytime soon. Like, it's like, what was the most effective form of teaching for this subject? And then you go, what about if the students have these kind of inclinations? And so I'm losing my voice. I mean, I don't actually expect that to happen anytime soon or anything exactly like that. But I just think this kind of search algorithm would be incredibly efficient, right? It's I don't know, it also requires incentive to make it that way, right? I don't think the education. Okay, I take back what I said about education. I do think it could be incorporated, but not quite like that. I'm not too sure how it would be. But I guess it would be like an interactive tutor. I think that's the best, because like maybe not everyone can afford a tutor to for you to directly ask questions to, and teach you. But it's like a private tutor. They can genuinely be like private tutors who talk you through it. You can ask questions. It's patient. It doesn't. You don't need a full person there by the hour. I guess I think that's the most powerful use of AI right now, and it's basically already available. You have access to it now. Okay. And it only get better once you have like speech and like it can talk to you, it can listen to you, so you don't even need to enter your prompts. I guess it would be more precise if the questions are also on the application, because math questions, for example, might be a little bit more annoying. So I mean, I think there's like probably tutor apps for these. Maybe out for different subjects. Probably out. Maybe some of the subjects are not yet. I don't know. But there's that. Honestly, it's like if I had a kid, I don't know if I would send him to public school. I might just give him like an AI. I don't know. It's like, I mean, he still needs to socialize with the kids. Maybe go to school to mess with kids, or maybe he'll just have him like go to like karate or something, socialize with. I don't know, but AI definitely should change the way people teach themselves and learn information. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Let's just go back. AI is basically being taught that we are idiots. Like we are a slave to our desires. We just click whatever triggers our brain to click. We don't click based reactively, right? Like we are just so inclined to click random shit so easily. Okay. And I mean, yeah, you can control it, but on average, right, the AI learns through volume, not through your identity and who you are. Okay. What was my next topic? Yes. The other thing is, like, people who talk about AI taking over the world, I mean, if you think about it right now, AI literally can determine what you believe is true about the world based on the algorithms. Whatever it is that you consume content on, you have to control which websites you use, which channels you listen to, but like the algorithms, maybe, and you can control, like, this is a problem you can only solve for yourself as an individual, but across the world, AI is developing to already essentially control how the majority of people view their world. And it's very oh, right, I remember now. I was talking about the divisiveness and tribalism. Okay, yeah, so the AI is designed to trigger your fears, your emotions, your anger, whatever, and that divides you. Also, in the past, if you had a friend Jim at the bar and you would watch sports together, then you knew Jim as a fellow sports fan. You watch sports with Jim. Now, you follow Jim on like Twitter, you're friends with him on Facebook or something. The feed of the algorithm sends you one post he makes and about an opinion he has that disagrees with yours, and you just, it's like done. It's like, oh my god, goodness, I can't believe you're like this. Whatever. Maybe not you, but like in terms of the direction of the world, right? That's compared to the past. And then when you think about this, and then you go, oh wait, so what do people do? Well, now what happens is you have like these bubbles of people who just say this all of the same shit. Like they don't just say the same shit like a group of you who say the same shit here, a group of you who say the same shit there. There's some overlap maybe on different topics. No, it's like one group of people say the same shit across all the topics. One group of people say the same shit across all these topics. And then sometimes when you have two groups that say the same shit here, disagree here, but because they say the same shit here, they're grouped together by this group, and they're fighting to get together over here, and it's just... I mean, there's something relevant I can bring up here. If, in my written journal a couple of weeks ago, I wrote about a study I learned from Peterson's 12 Rules for Life called the minimal group paradigm, which there's a few different names for it. Minimal identity. Anyways, basically, they took the experiment was this. Took a group of people, they had a jar of jelly beans, they told them to estimate how many jelly beans were in the jar. And they took the people who guessed more than the number into one group, and the people who guessed less than the number into another group. And then they were like, okay, now we give you X amount of money, and you have to divide that among everyone. And they would favor their group. And then they would re-separate them into new groups, or maybe different group of people, I don't know. And they would use them, they would test using various arbitrary metrics to separate them based on, and they would just favor their group with so little requirement for what determines whether it was their group or not. And that's the minimal group or minimal identity paradigm or whatever it's called, which basically talks about how little it takes to divide people into two different teams. And you can see that. Anyways, it's very hard to express yourself the way you want to express yourself, because you realize that most of the time when you're in a conversation, you react very instantly, and you don't really take the time to think a lot of the time. So you have to do it more often to iteratively, slowly change your habits. Anyways, that was the mistakes I found myself making, but I think that is suffice. I got a little bit off topic. I didn't really go in a straight line. I do need to work on not going off track, I guess, and distracting myself and forgetting what I wanted to talk about. But anyways, that's going to be it for today.